welcome to part 2. Today we are going to talk about the second part of the Fundamentals of Economics lecture. So, to begin, we will look at this slide right here, which is the way society answers the 3 economic questions, defines, and the blank you're looking for there is its economic systems. Basically, this is capitalism, communism, and socialism, which we will go into greater depth at a later time. So, how does society actually answer those 3 economic questions we discussed in last lecture? Will decide its economic system. Now, this section is the scope of economics, and this is basically going to kind of give you a heads up of what we're going to get into. Using GDP, unemployment rates, and tax rates are how we basically analyze how the economy is doing. I kind of use the analogy of a checkup at a physician. We check blood pressure, white blood cell count, all these things, and it's the same thing with the economy. We use gross domestic product, unemployment rates, and tax rates. The second question here is number 2. Economists analyze how and why of the economic activity. Basically, they want to know why prices go up and down and how taxes affect savings. So those are 2 things that will be a major thrust for us as we go through the whole unit. Number 3 is economists use theory to show how yesterday and today's economic activities will affect potential future activity, how government spending today may affect the national debt. So when we get into macroeconomics, we'll discuss how the national debt hurts and helps the American public. Now, in the next part here, we're going to look at thinking like an economist. So I want you to imagine that you're an economist if you would do a little role play with me. And we're going to look at, number 1, economic theory. Just like in physics, there are theories and there are laws. In economics, there are also theories and laws. No 2 economists tend to agree. So what economists try to do is create theories that make predictions about the real world and make it understandable for you and I. So an economic theory is basically a simplification of economic reality that is used to make a prediction about the real world. So they may create a model that talks about perhaps consumer spending during the Christmas season, and that will tell you at length what consumers may or may not spend during that time. So each economist will have their own theory. The second part, the more detail. The more difficult the theory, the more difficult it is to understand and thus less useful. All right, number 3, we're going to cross out. It's in Latin and it makes no sense, so let's just get rid of that. All right. Now, the major part of this actual lecture is we need to introduce the concept of marginal analysis. Marginal analysis is merely pluses and minuses, decision making. It helps you make rational decisions. Because of scarcity, you have limited resources. So to meet those wants and needs, we have to make rational decisions or good choices. So we have to make good choices about how we spend our money, how we use our time, how we use our energy. Marginal merely means incremental, or more simply, additional. So when we look at marginal analysis, what we're looking at here is by doing something, is it going to cost us more or is the benefit worth it? So let's look at number 2. Economic choice is based off of comparing the marginal benefit and the marginal cost, which is marginal analysis. There's a very simple explanation for this. Imagine you're thinking about getting married. So if you're considering getting married, you sit down and you make a T-chart with the pluses and the minuses, and you write down all the positives of being married. And then you write down all the negative aspects of being married. And if your T-chart, if you have 117 positives and 3 negatives, well, maybe you should get married. If it's the other way and you have 70 negatives and 2 positives, probably not. And we can do this with almost every aspect of life, guys. And this is the part of economics that will change your life. If you look at the positive and negatives of every decision, you will make better informed decisions. So marginal analysis is something that many people use throughout their life. Take a look at number 3. A rational decision maker will choose to do something as long as the expected marginal benefit exceeds the marginal cost. All that means, guys, is that there are more pluses than minuses. And marginal benefits are merely those pluses, and marginal costs are merely those negatives. So as long as the positives outweigh the negatives, then it makes an easy decision. Now, what happens to someone who might look at getting married and find 3 positives and 27 negatives and still decides to get married? They are violating what we call the maxim, or the rational decision. So they're going against what the evidence has shown them. And we call these irrational decision makers. All right, that concludes today's lecture. To wrap it up, we discussed 3 things. Basically, economic systems decide how societies make their choices, and that kind of dictates how that occurs. Secondly, the concept of economic theory, that economists must use something to kind of make sense of the economic principles to help us understand. Thirdly is the concept of marginal analysis, which is basically pluses and minuses, benefits and costs, and the fact that if there are more positives than negatives, we will probably go in that direction. If there's more negatives, then we won't make that decision. And we call that being rational decision makers. And what I want you guys to take away from this is, in your life, to start to apply the plus and minus system, the marginal analysis, and think about choices. Think about the things you do in your life, and what's the positive impact that they have, and what's the negative impact they're going to have, and how can you possibly become a better decision maker and a more rational decision maker. Tomorrow in class, we will do a 4-column note organizer to help you reinforce this. So we're basically going to go back over the main concepts that we covered, and then we're going to launch into the Walter Payton project, which is a marginal analysis scenario, which I think you will greatly enjoy. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.